it's time to wrap up what we left unfinished yesterday, as we still got cards to talk about from yesterday's reveals, which are the new clan collection reveals for Murakumo and Gold Paladin. Stand up, Vanguard! Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we're gonna dive once again into the new Clan Collection reveals for Clan Collection Volume 3 and Volume 4, and this time we've got new cards from Murakumo with, of course, Hiyaki Invoke Reverse, as well as the new Weasel Boss unit, and a very surprising new support card for Yoga. But on the other side of the coin toss here, we've got new Ezel support. And let me tell you, this Ezel support is kind of cracked, kind of spicy, and all the goodness that I like in a card design. But before we're going to talk about those cards, let's first tackle the new Murakumo cards, because just like Kagero, we've got 3 new grade 3s, which means we have a lot to analyze and a lot to talk about here. So we're going to start off with the new Weasel Boss unit for the archetype that was playing without the boss unit, as we've got Special Stealth Beast Weasel Black. Now, I want to immediately tell you or put attention towards the fact that it's an 8k grade 3. That might hurt a little bit, but it's not actually an 8k because of other effects of this particular unit, but it still hurts a little bit here. So what are the effects of Weasel Black? Now, first off, it got the skill Auto. When this unit is placed on the Vanguard circle, search your deck for up to 1 Special Stealth Beast Weasel Red, go to the Vanguard circle and shuffle your deck. So it's a 3+1 that filters your deck, which honestly is not that bad. But the amazing part about this effect is that it specifically searches out Weasel Red, which is the Weasel card that allows you to search out all the other Weasels from your deck to swarm the board by just discarding cards from your hand. So effectively, by riding this card, you can populate the entire board with Weasels and immediately start rushing your opponent. So you could say in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, this is a 1-card combo, which is pretty nice. It will cost you counterblast, and of course you need to discard cards from your hand, but if those cards can equate to massive aggression, might not, honestly not be that bad. Now, of course, you still might be wondering what's up with the 8k body here. Well, it has another effect which somewhat fixes this, as it has the effect continues on Vanguard circle. All of your units with the special in their card names get power plus 2k and shield plus 5k. Now, it's very important to note here that all the Weasels, or all these special cards, all of them are 8k, including Weasel Red, which is the outlier here, as it works a little bit different than the rest. And I believe all of, but I'm pretty sure all of them are 8k. So that means with this skill, all of them are going to be 10k and 10k interceptors, as most of them are grade 2s. I believe there are 2 grade 1s, if I remember correctly, or they are a bit different, but all of them are 8k, and now they also are going to have extra 5k shield, which is nice to increase the defensive capabilities here. But on top of that, some of the Weasels already had skills that could power up your units with 2k. We had 2 units, I believe one is a grade 2 and one is a grade 1, if I remember correctly. So that means you can easily power up this Vanguard to be actually higher than 8k. And of course, because of this skill, this isn't technically an 8k, it's actually a 10k, but still that's not all too great. But with the extra power gain during your turn means it will be a stronger attacker, and with the extra shield value could somewhat compensate here, but it's a little bit annoying, I'm not gonna lie here. But this isn't the only thing this card does, because it also has a nice, very aggressive skill that could also be seen as a finisher, as it has the effect Auto on Vanguard circle. When this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, cost counterblast 1, put 4 normal units from your drop on the bottom of your deck in any order, choose up to 4 of your grade 2 or less rear guards with special in their card names and stand them. So effectively, this card gives you 4 extra restands or 4 extra attacks. Now, it needs specifically restand all different Weasels, because there are currently, I believe, 5 different or 4. So you need to have almost all of them on the field. Now, that might sound like a tall order to ask, but because of the fact that if you ride him, you can search out the red, which can search out all the other Weasels, you're basically securing this no matter what. You're going to be able to meet this condition, and you're able to restand 4 units, thus being either able to generate 4 extra attacks if you have the Axel circles for it, or you're going to generate at least 3 attacks, and then one has a booster that's also going to restand, which is honestly not that bad, especially for 1 counterblast. pretty decent. And yes, you need to shuffle back 4 normal units to do your deck, but that actually works really nicely with this engine, because that means you're going to fill the deck for next turn. If your units get removed, then you can repopulate the board again with those targets you just shuffled back. So it is a nice synergy within the engine itself. Overall, I think Weasel Black isn't going to be an insane card. It is just a nice card to make the actual special Weasel deck have an actual win condition, or at least an actual cohesive game plan on its own, without it being an engine that you're splashing in something like a Mandala Lord or something else that can copy all your cards. So this, honestly, not that bad. I think this has definitely some potential, and with all other cards within Murakumo that can copy your names with cards from the drop zone and other stuff that works with name copying, might actually work with this engine as well. And I can definitely see this being a budget option, and maybe it will surprise us and be a little bit better than just your generic budget build. Now moving onwards, we got another grade 3 in the likes of Platinum Blonde Fox Spirit Tamamo, and Tamamo honestly surprised me, because this is actually a very nice generic support card from Murakumo, but it also works very nicely with the Stealth engine, which is of course Yoga, because its abilities are auto. When this card is revealed for your drive check, you may call this card to the rearguard circle. So it's basically an extra attacker. Now, it's not that bad in the case that you're losing a card from hand because you're immediately called and not getting to hand, because it's a grade 3, so it wasn't even shield value to begin with. The only thing you're gonna lose is just pure card value that could be used for discard and whatnot, but overall, honestly not that bad. And this combined with Yoga is pretty nice, because Yoga would discard this card anyways, because it's not a Stealth Fiend. So being able to immediately call with its own effect, you circumvent the fact that it's not a Stealth Fiend, thus negating that whole negative synergy with the card itself. But it also has another effect, which is auto. When this unit is placed on the rearguard circle, choose a unit card from your drop and change this unit card's name for that card until the end of turn. So this is basically the Metamorph Fox skill. Now this can work in a lot of variety of decks, and with the fact that it's also a multi-attacker in its own when you're gonna draw check, makes it a bit more flexible than Metamorph Fox. Yes, you're sacrificing the fact that it's a grade 3, so not 10k shield, and you're not running extra grade 1s. That could be a thing, but honestly, might not be too big of an issue. Now the interesting thing here is that with certain engines that have like passive power-up skills while specific units are on the field, could then interact with this card if this card changes its name to that specific card that then gets the passive power buff. So that means you're multi-attacking, but you're multi-attacking with a strong unit. An engine that can come to mind here is the special Weasels, for example. Because this can be drive check with this Weasel deck, then you call it to the field, give it one of the Weasel cards name that's in your drop, and now because it has the Weasel name, it gets the power above all the other Weasels, making it a stronger attacker. It has synergies with that engine, it also works with other engines, so it's a very flexible card. But that's not the only reason why it could work with the Stealth Fiend deck, aka Yoga, because it also has another effect, as if it doesn't need any more effects. It got auto on Vanguard and rearguard circle. When this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more rearguards with Stealth Fiend in their different card names, so this is the Stealth Fiend synergy, cost Soul Blast 1, this unit gets power plus 10k, drive plus 1 until the end of the battle. At the end of the battle, if this unit's on the rearguard circle, return this unit to your hand. So this is the reason why it works very nicely for Yoga, because it only will call itself from the drive check, it bounces itself back to hand, which means you somewhat negate the whole minus of not getting actual drive checks to your hand, because you now are able to bounce more cards back to your hand, which is nice. And because this card allows you to get a specific name on the field, that works nicely with Yoga, because now you can set up your field more consistently with different fiend names, thus giving more drive checks to your Yoga for more active pressure. But also being able to generate the 22k attacker of this card is also not that bad. Yes, the drive check won't really matter as a rearguard unit, and it mainly will be a rearguard beater, because in most decks this isn't the ideal ride target, but if you're supposed to ride, if the only option is to ride it in the Yoga deck, it's honestly not the end of the world, because you have a triple drive 22k swinging Vanguard that still synergizes with your engine, and you're going to plus this time instead of losing the card. So I think this is a solid backup unit for Yoga, and at the same time it has some niche interactions with other decks within Murakumo. So honestly, not a bad support card. But that's not the main highlight here for Murakumo. It's of course the new Hiyaki Invoke reverse, but spoiler alert, it's kind of a letdown. So here we have Covert Demonic Dragon Hiyaki Invoke reverse, and Hiyaki Invoke reverse has the effect continues in deck, Vanguard circle and rearguard circle. This card is regarded as Covert Demonic Dragon Hiyaki Evoke. So this synergizes very nicely with Hiyaki Evoke because Hiyaki Evoke can give all the units with the same name an extra 10k power when it uses effect. But then also it has the effect act on Vanguard Circle once a turn, cause Soul Blast 1, search your deck for up to 3 cards with the same card name as this unit, call them to the rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. Then choose the same number of rearguards as the number of called units and lock them. So keep in mind, because you have the other Hiyaki Evoke and this Hiyaki Evoke have the same name, so you have a total of 8 targets. But if this is on the Vanguard Circle, you have 7 targets left, which means you have a decent amount of chance to actually being able to call for units of the skill. The only issue is that you're not actually directly plussing with this effect because you call free and then you need a lock free. So if you don't already have somewhat of an established board, you cannot actually get the attackers on the board. So it's a bit tricky, but at the same time, it will generate value over time because you can first set this up, just call them locked, and next turn they unlock and they stay on the board, and that means you plus 3 of this skill, which honestly is not terrible, but it's also not great. But it also has another effect, which is Auto Vanguard Circle. When your lock card is unlocked during your end phase, cost put a rearguard on the bottom of your deck, choose one of your rearguards and return it to your hand. So effectively, when you already have 3 cards on the field and you call free and you lock free, that means at the end of the battle, for every lock card, you send one back and bounce one to hand. Send one back, bounce one to hand, send one back to bounce one back to hand. So you clear your board, but you negate the pluses you made of its first ability, but at the same time you bounce back cards to hand so you can use their unplace effects again. I don't know what the idea of this skill is, honestly, because it negates the potential pluses you get from its first effect by using the second effect at the end of the turn if you're going to resolve it, because you don't have to, but you can if you want to go that direction. The only upside is to why I think that's good is if you're up against something like Kagero or something that can remove your entire field, so might as well bounce it back. Or if you have like a lot of cards that have unplace effects, so you want to use them turn after turn after turn, that might be a synergy. Also, it somewhat counterplays against Chaos because now you bounce back your cards, so Chaos cannot retire them. I think Chaos can still like remove your markers, but at the very least, you get the card back into your hand so it doesn't get sniped. But besides that, I don't know actually what the idea is of Hiyaki Evoke reverse. Like, you can use the original Hiyaki Evoke to give 10k power if you use that skill, so you can make your attacker strong, but it's basically just a bunch of 22-27k attacks. That's it. In that respect, I feel like the Weasels might actually be better. But that might just be me, so maybe I'm missing something, but Hiyaki Evoke reverse is kind of a letdown if I'm gonna be very honest. Now, what's not a letdown is the new Ezel support, so let's take a look at what Gold Paladin has to offer. And spoiler alert, it's kind of spicy. So first off, we've got this grade 1, which is Sacred Twin Beast White Lion. And this grade 1 has the skill Auto Vanguard to Rearguard Circle. When this unit attack or the attack this unit boosted hits a Vanguard, look at the 6 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 grade 3 cards with Ezel in their different card names, reveal them and put them into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you put 2 cards into your hand, choose a card from your hand and put it into your soul. So effectively, this is an Ezel searcher and it sets up your soul. Now, both skills are very important because the new Ezel is going to work with a significant amount of Ezels in your soul and all the different versions of Ezels you want to have in soul. So this allows you to have a consistent access to grabbing those cards to your hand in the first place and potentially setting up some as well. So definitely a very solid card for the deck. Now, moving on to the grade 2, we've got Knight of Passion, Back the Magus, and Back the Magus has the effect, continues a Rearguard Circle. During your turn, this unit gets power plus 5k for each grade 3 with Ezel in its different card name in your soul. So the more Ezels you can set up, the stronger it is going to get. And we already have Blonde Ezel, we have Ravenhair Ezel, we have Platina Ezel, and then the new Grand Ezel Scissors. So that's 4 different Ezels you can have in your soul. So this could potentially be plus 20k, being a 29k beater or 34k beater in Excel 2. Pretty good. This is honestly a very solid beater for the deck, but it will require setup. But with the Lion, as well as the inherent superior right engine of Ezel, it's not that hard to set this up if I'm gonna be very honest. So it's very possible that this could easily be a solid beater for the deck. But it also has another effect, which is continuous Rearguard Circle. If your soul has 2 or more grade 3 cards, when this unit would attack, it battles all of your opponent's units in the column. So it's also a column attacker. Interesting enough, this is generic, so this could work in any Gold Paladin deck. but probably mainly will be used for Ezel because it means it's a strong attacker that's also a column attacker, and in most instances it will basically attack the Vanguard as well as the booster of the Vanguard at the same time. Overall, a solid support card. I don't know if it will be played depending on the room, because as you're going to see with the new Ezel, a lot of your deck space is going to be dedicated to your Grade 3, because Gold Paladin is turning, or at least Ezel is turning into Dimension Police here. Because this all comes together if we take a look at the brand new Ezel, which is Salvation Lion Grand Ezel Scissors. And Scissors has the interesting effect of act on Vanguard Circle. Once a turn cost, put a Grade 3 card with Ezel in this card name from your hand into the soul. Choose all of the Grade 3 cards with Ezel in their card names, not named Salvation Lion Grand Ezel Scissors, in your soul, and this unit gets all of their abilities until the end of turn. Yes, it's Gastile for Ezel. Now, with the Ezels that we have Blonde Ezel, which basically on attack can call you a card from hand, so that's a 3+1 attack. It has potentially Ravenair Ezel, which has the counterblast skill. If you have the Blonde Ezel in Soul, you can counterblast 1. It gets plus 50k power, plus a critical, and a Sentinel Guard Restrict. So you swing with a 27 double critical Guard Restrict that also calls a unit from hand to multi-attack. But if you also have Platinum, you have another counterblast skill, which effectively states that you check the top 2 cards for every drive check. One is going to be your drive check, and one is a card you're going to call. And if you have 2 or more Grade 3s, which with this skill and the Lion as well is very easy to set up, it's going to happen for every drive check. So you're going to multi-tech a lot, you're going to manipulate your drive checks, you can potentially get a critical, you can potentially come with extra power, Sentinel Guard Restrict, and more cards that you can call from hand. That's a lot in one card. Now, to be fair, to do the entire wombo combo, you need to have 3 specific cards in your soul, and you need to pay 2 counterblasts for those 2 cards, for Ravenair and Platina, to do that. Now, you can say Ravenair might not be necessary because you maybe don't need a critical and a guard restrict and 50k power if the multi-attack is just suffice. The multi-attack in itself can basically be enough, and if you look at it like that, this card effectively becomes a turn 3 Platina. Whereas the original Platina is a turn 4. So this is a turn faster Platina, which is scary to think about. Especially if we take a look at this second effect, which is act on Vanguard Circle once a turn. If your opponent's Vanguard is Grade 3 or greater, and your soul has 2 or more Grade 3 cards, which is the same condition as Platina, cost counterblast 1 until the end of turn, this unit gets drive +1, and your opponent cannot activate Vanguard's auto abilities. Unlock all of your locked cards. So there's a lot to digest here. So first off, it gets an extra drive check. So that means if you combine this with Platina, for 2 counterblasts, you have a triple drive Vanguard that can manipulate all of their drive checks, and every drive check will generate an extra attack. That's basically a V premium version of Spare Cross. As that stride also cost you 2 counterblasts, and you basically went into Platina, counterblast 1 to get the skill, then counterblast 2, go into Platina, into Spare Cross, have the triple drive set up to basically multi-attack your opponent to oblivion. This is the standard, or should I say, the V premium variant of that combo that was pretty decent in premium. That's pretty decent, or pretty solid if I'm gonna be very honest. But there's more here. You negate your opponent's auto abilities, and you unlock all your unlock cards. So this is anti-Link Joker, but on top of that, because it negates the auto abilities, certain defensive skills are now offline. Think of Magatsu Storm's Perfect Guard ability. Think of the skill of the new Kagero unit that basically force you to bind 2 of your units. That's negated. I think Himiko is an auto ability, and a couple of other defensive skills that are coming out of Woodworks. Gurgrit, for example, is also offline. This negates all of those abilities. But more importantly, I love the fact that this effect is the biggest middle finger towards Chaos. Because Chaos, when your cards are locked, you can retire, remove markers and whatnot. The thing is, it first negates the auto ability of Chaos, and then it unlocks this card. So Chaos basically is looking at the field, getting unlocked, and it can do absolutely nothing about it. I love the irony in this, or I don't know what it is, like, Scissors has those two massive scissors, so it cannot really flip him off, but I can imagine him flipping him off with those scissors when he is basically unlocking his cards. Overall, pretty nice skill, but there's a lot of potential here, but also we need to be very critical. Like, in itself, the card looks insane by combining all the Ezel cards together. You have an insane Vanguard that does a lot with multi-tax and all these shenanigans with the superior right engine mix thrown in the mix. A lot of powerful things could happen. But we need to be realistic. It needs a lot of setup. It needs a lot of specific grade 3s to install. It also costs quite a few counterblasts if you want to go the Exodia route, which your opponent can basically deny in certain instances. But another aspect you could basically see is that the first ability isn't restricted to one copy per card. So let's say, for example, your opponent is damage denying you, but you have 3 blonde Ezels in your soul. You can use that skill to call a card from your hand 3 times, because it isn't like once per turn restricted or name once per turn restricted. It just activates. So you have counterblast denial options if you want to go the blonde Ezel route. You can go completely ham with Raven if you have like 5 counterblasts, have multiple Ravens in your soul, counterblast all the Ravens, get like an 80k Vanguard with the Sentinel Guard Restrict with 5 crits and Exodia that way. That's a possibility, but at the same time, that means we need to run a significant amount of grade 3s in our deck, which then lowers the consistency of a couple of things, but also lowers the shield value. And at the same time, by running so many grade 3s, that means we have less room for our grade 2s and grade 1s. So I think Ezel has a lot of potential, but I feel like it needs a lot of work to figure out the correct deck list to make this card work to its most potential, to its utmost capacity. But just straight out running 4 officers all the grade 3s, I don't think that's going to be the correct way. It could be, but I feel like it's a bit too much of a pipe dream to go that route. But who knows, maybe it's like running some at 2 off, or maybe like a 1 off for a specific card, or like everything at the 3 off. Like, maybe you still want to run in Percival, because keep in mind, if you gotta go pure into Salvation Lion Grand Ezel Scissors, that means on your first grade 3 turn, you have only 1 Axel marker. And what's the point of holding multi-tax if you don't have multiple Axel markers? So you want to some extent, accelerate those Axel markers. So it's basically a very delicate balance to find the correct mix here to make this card be as devastating as it could be. But for now, it's basically up to the gold panel players to figure out how to abuse this new Ezel card and basically try to break the meta once again. Because every time Ezel is thrown in the mix, it has to do something ridiculous. And maybe it is going to hold true this time as well. Or maybe it's only going to do something in premium. Who knows? But with that said, that's all that we got today. These were the new card reveals that we got for V Premium. Now, of course, we already know that Grand Blue already got revealed with Kokaida's Reverse, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow with the other reveal of the next clan for tomorrow, which, as of yet, we don't know what that's going to be. So keep an eye out for that once we talk about those cards as well. But in the meantime, I'm very curious on what you guys think of these cards. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the new Murakumo cards. Are you excited about maybe the Weasel card or the new Hiyaki support card? Or do you actually think there is some potential in Hiyaki Invoke Reverse? Or are you just as disappointed as I am and a lot of other players? Or are you just excited about new Ezel support? Do you think the card is cracked? Do you think the card is insane? I think on paper the card is busted beyond belief, but I think it will be a little bit different in practice. But at the same time, it's Ezel. Who knows what the card is going to do? Maybe it's going to break the meta again. Honestly, I would not be surprised, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/FingerInsider. You guys are amazing. If you want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/FingerInsider and become a patron today. But with that said, I've been Mr. Time Leap, and I'll see you guys in the next one!